hence why this segment is called Still Figuring It Out.
Yeah.
Because we are literally still figuring it out. Hi, welcome to another episode of Still Figuring Out. I'm Rachel, and today's episode is about women in the workplace. If you've been watching our podcasts, please make sure to like and subscribe and visit the platform. Love Laid Bare. Thank you. Okay, where do I start? So I started working at the age of 14, and it was a part-time job. Used to do it on a Saturday and sometimes a Sunday after school. Very long time ago, used to sell flowers and weigh potatoes and stuff. Used to work in a fruit and veg stall. So where I actually learned how to flower arrange. It was quite interesting. My first experience of working was quite pleasant and actually quite enjoyable experience. My auntie, she was the catalyst for me going into the workplace because she knew the lady that owned a fruit and veg stall. And it was really nice. She was really nice to me. Got a taste of money by the age of 17. Had another part-time job, was going to college, would work after college and weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. Again, another pleasant experience. Texas Home Care, imagine, don't even exist anymore, but big up to all the Texas peeps that I used to work with. Yeah, that was quite a pleasant experience as well. Actually taught me responsibility, gave me an indication of what work life would be throughout a full day. Whereas when I was 14, it was like a couple of hours, got paid, excited. My first real entry into the workplace was at 1920 of a career. And I remember applying for the job and literally having to go through a very arduous, a very difficult application process, going through assessments, reading up, researching, having to do some more tests, going for an interview with a panel, and then they didn't respond. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So I then phoned them back. I was like, I haven't heard from you. It's like, oh, we sent you a letter. You got the job. Excited. Entered into the workplace as an administrative officer, literally doing admin. Really interesting. But what I initially found was that there was a significant difference between male managers and female managers. And what I found was female managers had a greater expectation on their female staff than they did on their male staff, whereas the male managers had a different expectation. So it wasn't a greater expectation. They expected greater productivity, but there was a difference in regards to how it was managed. So going through my career, I kind of spent about 11 years in one organisation and kind of worked my way through the ranks. And I spent, let me be clear, I spent 24 years in one organisation that had different departments. So we kind of went around, got promotion, went through the ranks. And what I realised was that there was an underlying current when applying for promotion and having to go to your manager for validation. Now, this was a thing that you had to do. I realised that actually, when I went for promotion, there was always a kind of, I'm trying to find the word. It wasn't solely negative, but there was a negative undertone. So it was never, I don't think you're ready, or are you sure? It was always, oh, you're applying, are you? And it was a microaggression. Now, for anybody that doesn't know what a microaggression is, it's a behavior that has a biased undertone to it. So what happens is a microaggression is something that makes you feel uncomfortable. You know it has a negative undertone, but you can't really put your finger on it and you can't prove it that it's happened. So my first real encounter of microaggressions was in my kind of second to third job. And I remember applying for promotion. I was excelling. I was banging out the work. There was never, ever any issues with my work. I'd get bonuses every 6 months. But the moment I decided that I wanted to move on, there was an undertone. There was a, oh, so you're applying, are you? Oh, yes, I've heard about that department. And yes, no, I don't think it's a good idea. And it was always that kind of response that I got. Moving on through my career, I kind of undertook a lot of roles in regards to managerial kind of roles. And I remember getting to quite a senior managerial position and managing a team of 30 staff. And I was a senior manager, then I had managers underneath me, and then I had administrative officers and admin staff underneath that. And I remember one day being in the office and sitting down at my desk and it being really, really cold in the office. I just thought to myself, yeah, it's a bit chilly. Guys are trying to fix the radiators, but the lady beside me had her fans on. Like, can you turn off the fan? Like, like she's got 4 fans around her. I don't know if she's going through menopause, and I get that people have kind of reactions to menopause and they get hot flushes, but she's got all 4 of these fans on, and one of them's blowing directly on me. The heating's not working, and I'm cold at the best of times. Don't look at this right now because it's warm in the room, but I'm cold at the best of times. Someone's got the fan directly on me. So I'm like, can you turn off the fan? Telling me about, nah. It's like, please, can you, like, I'm not asking you to turn off all 4. Just turn off the one that's directed at me. You people. That was strike 1. Said, yeah, you black people are always complaining about the cold. I swallowed. Because at this point, like, I've grown up in a predominantly black area. I've never really experienced racism like that. But to then hear, you black people. Now, my first instinct was to get up on the table and kick off her head. That was the first instinct. I didn't do it. I wanted to. I didn't do it. Now, what's happened is there are 2 contractors in the building. They don't work for the organisation. And right about now, they're 2 black gentlemen. And they've turned around to look at me. I'm keeping calm. I said, what do you mean by that? Yeah, you black people, like, you're always talking about the cold. Like, if you don't like it here, you can always go back to your own country. Hold on a minute. I said, hold on a minute. What did you just say? Yeah, you can always put on more sweaters. Yeah? Why don't you put on more clothes? I said to her, hold on a minute. Let's have it right. You're telling me I must go back to my own country. I said, I was born in Clapham, you know. Like, so if it's Clapham you need me to go back to, it's only a train journey, really. But can you just please explain what you're talking about? She's like, yeah, you black people, you're always complaining about the cold. You can put on more clothes. I said, I must be uncomfortable in layers and layers of clothes because you're hot. One person in the whole office is hot. She went on and on and on. Then the Asian lady behind me turned around and said to her, oh, you can't say that. She said, oh, yeah, you can go back to your corner shop too. That was it. Now, at this point, I'm a senior manager. I said to her, I think you might need to pack up your stuff. You need to go home. This lady did not move. So I went round and spoke to my manager, a white gentleman, turned around and told me, oh, I don't think it's gross misconduct or serious misconduct. I'll have a word with her. I'm like, scene. At this point now, you know, I'm mad as hell. So we're halfway through the day and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go home. Before anything else escalates, I'm going to go home. But you need to sort this. By the time I come back to work tomorrow, she needs to be gone. I came back into work the next day. She was still there. I'm like, hold on a minute. Our policy says this is gross misconduct, but it wasn't explicit about racism. So basically, it gave them an avenue to be able to allow this woman to stay for a further 2 weeks. So now I've gone to see the union because I need to understand why is it that I'm an employee who has been racially abused in front of a whole team in front of external contractors who has been allowed to stay in the building. I'm mad now. So I'm speaking to the union, a white gentleman. He's like, are you sure you want to go through with this? Like, what do you mean? Are you sure you want to go through with making a complaint? Now, at this point, I feel like I'm being gaslit. Because what do you mean, am I sure? Did you not hear what the woman said to me? I must go back to my own country. Do I look like the monkey on the front of Cocoa Pops? I don't understand. What do you mean, am I sure? Because now you're gonna start riling me up, aren't you? I get to the point and I say to them, either you do your job or I'll do it myself. Cool, no problem. So the union guy decides to write a letter to my manager. Manager overturns the letter and says he's not willing to suspend her. I'm like, scene, okay. This is really interesting. Very, very interesting. I then start writing letter to the equalities minister, the minister as in the governmental minister, because right about now, something needs to happen, and you're breaching my human rights around here. You're breaching my equality rights around here. You're breaching some form of Race Relations Act, some amendment somewhere. Now, I'm going to start digging because I'm a person that I try not to act out of emotions, because if I'd have acted out of emotions, I'd have kicked off her head long time, drag her down the stairs, out the building. But what I'm realizing is that there are many ways to skin a cat right now, and I'm going to skin you. I'm going to skin you to the most highest part that you've never even understood. So 2 weeks after this incident, the letter's written to the equalities minister. The next day, she's frog marched out the building. And I'm like, look at the level that I had to go to get this woman to be suspended. So they did a little investigation and they brought this woman back into the same department as me. I'm like, wait a minute. Now I'm fuming now, you know. I'm absolutely fuming because I don't know how this has happened, how this has been allowed to happen, and exactly what is it that I have to do for them to understand the severity of the situation. I started researching because, you know, now I'm mad. I start researching and find that I can go to the employment tribunal for racial discrimination. Cool. Got my union on side. They said, don't worry, we'll help you fill in the form. Filling in this form, this Employment Tribunal 1 form, for anybody that needs to know what it is, go look it up. So it's an Employment Tribunal form and you're supposed to fill in this document. So this occurrence happened, and 2 months, remember I've already gone to the union and asked them to file a complaint. So within a 2.5 months period, it's taken this long to do the investigation. They bring her back at the 3 month stage. They bring her back exactly 3 months. Now, for an ET, an employment tribunal, you have to file your claim within 3 months and 1 day. I filed it on 3 months and 2 days. They deemed it as a late application. I was mad because I'm thinking, you have to do an investigation before I can go to the employment tribunal. You don't. Just for those who don't know, you don't have to wait. They still accept the claim based upon the fact that she's still doing it, because this woman has now decided that she's going to turn around and tell somebody, yeah, I vote for the BNP all the time. It's like, oh. Then she turned around and said to another Asian lady, yeah, you look a bit Chinese, don't you? And I'm like, oh no, this woman is on a roll and nobody is pulling her up. I'm mad now. By this point, you know, I'm mad now, innit? I'm absolutely mad. She then looks in the file and looks at a picture and says, hey, brother, this guy in this file looks like you. Look, he looks a bit Turkish. I said, oh, Jesus. Yeah. By this time, I'm done. Now, imagine being in a career where you are a manager and you are having to put up with somebody who is blatantly racist and your senior management is not doing anything about it. You file an ET claim and they're willing to fight it on her behalf. They're not willing to try and settle. They're going to argue. So our ET claim gets listed. So we're now going to court, okay? And what they're doing in this period, while this ET claim is being filed and information is being collected, is they're doing the subtle microaggressions. So it is the ostracizing of not talking to you. It is the constant picking at your work that has never been picked before, that you've always got bonuses for. It is the constant engagement, but it's negative engagement. It's abrupt. It is underhand, and it is piling more work onto you that you categorically know is meant to belong to your counterparts. Cool, no problem. We get to employment tribunal and the union pulls out. 2 days before the court case, the union pulls out. You're now left to represent yourself. The smug solicitors from the other side walk in. They're real smug, you know, because they know that the union's not representing me now. And they're like, well, we'll potentially give you some money and you can sign a non-disclosure contract, meaning that I could never talk about this situation again. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about it and I'm like, boy, you're going to pay me about 8K. I sign a non-disclosure clause and I don't talk about it again. Then I think about all of the people that are going to come behind me that you think you're going to do this to again. And I said, you chose the wrong one today. I said, no, I'm all right, thanks. I don't want your money. So then what they did was, the day of the court case, they came into the room and they said, are you willing to take the offer? I said, no. They goes, okay, well, we're withdrawing the offer and we're withdrawing the offer anyway and we're going to go straight to court. I said, no problem. Cool. So we're in the room now and 4 senior managers who were above me walk into the room. Another 3 witnesses walk into the room. 2 barristers and a solicitor are representing her. The organisation is paying for this. Now remember, the trade union who was supporting me, who was supposed to represent me, has pulled out. I've now got to represent myself. But I want to thank my granny and my mother for the years of Jessica Fletcher, Colombo, and Hercule Poirot and Diagnosis Murder that they used to kill me with every Saturday and Sunday. Because trust me, I was not backing down. We get to court, going through all of the evidence. And I'm like, okay, I should be all right. I've got all of the evidence, but I've got a little ace up my sleeve, because when you're preparing for court, they have to share their bundle and we have to share ours. So they give me their information, I give my evidence to them. In their evidence, they're saying that they can't find the contractors that were in the room when the incident took place. And none of my colleagues wanted to be witnesses, bar 2. This time the room was full, you know. We'll get to that part in a minute. But I'm like, wow, they can't find the contractors. But what they didn't know is that I'd already found them. Now, we work in a government building. You're telling me that we're under a particular level of threat in the United Kingdom. Everybody has to sign in and sign up, but you can't find the people that are signing into a government building. Okay, we're going to play this game. So when the tribunal panel walks out, I'm like, wow. Because there's a white male, a white female, and a black female. The universe allowed that panel to be diverse. Don't think they didn't give me a warm time, they did. But what happened was I was allowed to present my evidence and demonstrate how that racism had continued, on the fact that they had not suspended her within time. They had not done the investigation within a timely manner. They hadn't followed their own policies, and they had continued the racism by bringing her back into the organisation, back into my team for me to manage. That was how that scenario kind of came to a halt. But what it made me understand was that there are some people that are going to stay on code regardless if they're right or wrong. They were going to stand by their own regardless of whether their policies said so. The Equality Act that runs throughout the United Kingdom as a law they were going to stand by. And for me, the fact that I'd gone to court, the fact that I'd stood my ground, because there were people behind me that were going through this. There were people before me who'd signed non-disclosure clauses. That meant that I couldn't use their cases as comparators. I wasn't about to do that to somebody else. So being able to go through that process without having to sign a non-disclosure clause and contract, I think that was my greatest achievement throughout that whole process. Now, I won some money. Yeah, it was all right. Spunked it quite quickly. Well, it didn't mean anything to me because of the dirtiness that came with it. So sent my granny on holiday, sent my mum on holiday, got a new kitchen, like spunked the money. It wasn't a problem to me. The problem for me was going back into that organisation to work. And the first thing my manager ever said to me was, "Are we going to have a problem?" And that made me know that I couldn't stay there. That made me know categorically, as much as he was trying to be helpful in regards to, will we have a further problem, he was still trying to protect his own back and make sure we didn't get to that point again. Fast forward 14 years in the job I'm in now. Quite enjoy it, to be honest. But I found that microaggressions come through not just acts of conscious racism, but they come through ignorance, and they come through the lack of education. It comes through the not understanding or the willingness to not understand or not want change, because you will understand that self-preservation is key. And even if it means that somebody is hurt, discriminated against, self-preservation is key. And what you will understand is that you will find many ways to influence people to try and change their perception of things, but sometimes it's just not worth it. I think we all have a responsibility to our counterparts, our colleagues, to support them when they are going through issues at work. Now, I'll be very honest with you. It is not only my white counterparts that I've had microaggressions from. I don't ever get it twisted that microaggressions can only come through racial incidences, because they can come through all different types of incidences. But there are also women. So in a 24-year career, out of 24 years, 21 of those years I received bonuses and exceptional reports, as in I exceeded the expectations. 21 years out of 24. Of the 3 years I did not get exceptional and did not get a bonus, those 3 were for black women. And I don't know if those black women had an unconscious bias towards other black women, or they had a higher expectation of me. But what I do know is that my work rate didn't drop. My level of innovation didn't drop. My level of delivery didn't drop. If not, I delivered more. And the small things that were found in regards to why I wasn't given a bonus had never been an issue with any other manager prior to that. So I say that to say this: as much as we go into an organization, we go into organizations and workplaces and have careers with people, and there is a stereotype on women, and there is a stereotype on race and ethnicity and all other, and gender. Always understand your worth. Always understand what the deal breakers are for you. Because I stayed in that workplace for another 9 years, 8 years after that incident. And I wasn't given promotion. I was literally blackballed, but I enjoyed my job. And it gave me the flexibility to be able to go back to university, get a degree, get a master's, and get a scholarship on top of it. So to be honest, they did me a favour, because I was comfortable where I was. The moment that I'd gotten what I needed from that organisation, I upped and left. Always make sure that you understand your worth and what your deal breakers are. And that is me signing off. If you like our podcast, Please like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram and Love Laid Bear.